Hi grade 4s, today we are going to finish Front Desk by Kelly Yang. We only have 3 short chapters left. I cannot believe that we are finished this book, and I'm feeling a little bit sad about it, and I'm sure you are too. But that just means that when the sequel to this book, 3 Keys, comes out, that we all are going to be very excited to read it. As usual, I'm reading this with permission from both Kelly Yang and Schoalstic. I'm excited to see what you've thought of the book overall and what you think of these last few chapters in the emails you send me today. Let's get going. So, chapter 65 just ended with her parents saying that they had an idea of how they might be able to make that money, but we don't know what the idea is. So let's get started. Chapter 65. "No," I said, shaking my head firmly. "Just this once," my dad said. "We're so close." "Dad, you saw what happened to Uncle Ming." The memory of his black eye and the bruises on his neck where the loan sharps grabbed him ripped through me. "I know, but this is different. You said it yourself. This is a huge opportunity." I looked up at my dad. I had never seen so much determination and hope in his eyes. "We're this close," my dad said, holding up his fingers. My mother put her hand over mine. "Just this once," she repeated. "We'll pay them right back. It's just this once." Hour after terrifying hour, I sat and waited at the front desk. The loan sharks were coming. I pictured hammerheads swimming up to the front desk, glaring at us from the sides of their heads. They pulled into the motel in a black Cadillac DeVille. 3 big Chinese guys stepped out. They were all wearing leather jackets, and one of them had a tattoo of the word Ren in Chinese on his neck, which meant to suffer. Another had a big tear in his ear, like someone had ripped out an earring. And the third, the boss of the group, had oily skin and long, stringy hair, which he wore in a ponytail. There was a big bulge in his jacket, and I swallowed hard as they stepped through the bulletproof glass door. "You understand, for an amount this large, we're going to need some collateral," the oily boss of the loan sharks said to my dad. The 3 of them sat on the small sofa in our living room. With a trembling hand, my mom poured them the last of our jasmine tea. "Yes," my dad said. "That makes sense. What do you need?" "Passport, ID," he said. I felt myself go cold. "But Uncle Zhang," I reminded my dad. My dad put a finger over his mouth. "Not now." It'll be returned to you, of course, when you pay us back," the oily boss said. His voice lingered. "But if you don't pay us back the $50,000 plus another $20,000 on top, well then," the boss glanced at his associates. They stretched out their hands and cracked their knuckles, and with every crack, fear jolted down my spine. Chapter 66. It was decided that the next afternoon, the loan sharks would come back with the $50,000, and my parents would hand over our passports and IDs. I walked to school with nails in my stomach. It was the last day of school, and as we cleaned out our desks and counted down the last hour, Jason walked up to me. "Hey," he said. In his hand, he was holding a pencil. My sparkly green pencil. "I'm meaning to give this back to you," he said, handing the pencil to me. I looked down at the pencil in my hands. I expected it to be super short and beat up by now. I'd had visions of Jason's dog chewing on it, Jason stabbing things at home with it, wearing it down to a nub. But it was exactly the same length as before, and as beautiful and sparkly as ever. "Thank you," I said. "This means a lot to me." I hugged my pencil in my hands. "I'm sure you'll write great things with it," he added. I looked up at him, surprised. "Like the piece you wrote about coming to America." A smile stretched across my face. "Thanks," I said. Jason looked down at the floor. "I'm sorry I made your year so miserable," he said softly. "It's okay," I said. "I'm sorry too for, I could see in his eyes I didn't need to remind him about the time in the auditorium. He probably remembered every day. Here, I have something for you too, I said. I reached deep down into my backpack and pulled out the thank you letter I'd been meaning to give him. I'd been carrying it around in my backpack for months. Jason looked down at the note, surprised, and he smiled as he read my words. As I turned to leave, Jason reached out and touched my arm. What? I asked. He's bluffing. There's no other buyer. It's just you guys. He would take a lot less for the motel. I stared at Jason. His brown eyes blazed with courage, but it was his kindness that blew me away. When the school bell rang, I ran. Chapter 67. I ran as fast as the wind would carry me, adrenaline powering my skinny little legs. With each step, I whispered a prayer. Please let me get there before the loan sharks do, please. I turned the corner onto Coast Boulevard just as the loan sharks' Cadillac pulled into the motel. As the 3 loan sharks got out of their car with their suitcases full of cash, I raced into the parking lot screaming, Mom! Dad! Don't do it! Mr. Yao is bluffing! My parents promptly called off the deal. The loan sharks grumbled about how they came all this way and went to a great deal of effort to put the money together. So my dad gave them $20 for gas in their troubles, and they piled back into their car and left. As they drove away, my parents collapsed onto the ground. That was close, my mother exclaimed. My dad put his hand over his pounding heart as he stared at the wide open sky. Thank God, my dad said. As my parents lay panting on the side of the parking lot, I walked over to the front desk and called Mr. Yao. Mr. Yao, we'd like to make an offer on the motel, I said. $300,000 and not a penny more. He said yes, I screamed, running through the motel. The Weekleys were in Hank's room playing Monopoly. When they heard the news that Mr. Yao agreed to sell to us, Hank slapped the Monopoly board and all the pieces went flying. What'd I tell ya, Hank said to Billy Bob. If it can happen in Monopoly, it can happen in life. Mr. Yao came over with Jason and his real estate agent the next day, as did Lupe, Lupe's dad, Mr. Cooper, the immigrants, Mr. Abayan from the convenience store, Mr. Bagawadi from the laundromat, and some of the Motel SA people who had driven down because they wanted to see their new motel with their very own eyes. Mr. Cooper brought over his lawyer friend who helped us draw up the contract. There were so many people we couldn't all fit in the manager's quarters. We had to put chairs and tables out in the parking lot. All right, let's get this over with, Mr. Yao said. It took ages for Mr. Yao and his agents to count all the money. When he was finally convinced it was all there, he lugged the bag over to his car and dumped it in the trunk. His agent then sat down with Mr. Cooper's lawyer and pored over the sales and purchase agreements. We all huddled around them, watching as they wrote each of our names under buyer. There were so many owners, we needed 3 extra pages just to fill out all of their names. My father's voice shook as he told the agent how to spell his name. I never thought this day would actually happen, he said. Me neither, my friend, said Hank, putting an arm around my dad's shoulder. Me neither. When everyone finished signing their names and Mr. Yao officially handed my parents the keys, Lupe and I jumped up and down screaming, We did it! We did it! We did it! Jason smiled. You know what I'm going to do? Hank asked, his eyes twinkling. What? I asked. Hank ran towards the sparkling blue pool. He let out a yelp as he jumped in, fully clothed. Hey, Mr. Yao called, but only with a fraction of his usual force. You can't jump into my pool with your clothes on. It's not your pool anymore, Hank called back. Mr. Yao opened up his mouth to protest it, but then closed it. One by one, Lupe and all the Weekleys and SA people and immigrants jumped in too. My dad threw my mom in, and my mom shrieked with glee. Everyone was waiting for me. I turned to Jason. You coming? I asked. Jason turned to his dad and asked if he could stay. Mr. Yao scoffed. You don't want to go swimming with these losers, do you? He asked his son. Jason shook his head. No, Dad. I want to go swimming with the winners. Hand in hand, we jumped into the pool. As we splashed and swam in the sun-kissed water, my mother suddenly remembered something very important. Wait, she said. Let's get a picture.
I'll take it, Hank jumped out. As he held his hand up and clicked, I looked around at my new family and smiled. It was a picture I'd been waiting a long, long time for. And that's the end of Front Desk. Thank you so much, Kelly Yang, for writing a story that so many people, children, students, adults can relate to. And I'm so excited that I got to share this with my class. I think a lot of them see themselves in Mia or in the other characters, and those who haven't or don't were able to learn a lot from Mia and Mia's family. Grade 4s, I'm so excited to see your last final project for this book, and maybe we can send some photos or videos to Kelly Yang. I know that she loves to see that kind of stuff on Twitter. All right, grade 4s, I hope you have a lovely weekend, and I'll talk to you later.